here's a 5-minute quickie that lasts, 7 or 8 minutes. But it's all about listening. Not necessarily listening to the words that other people say, which you should do, obviously, but listening to the words that you say and making sure it's what you wanted to say and how to change. Okay, have a listen after this. Hey, welcome to the Personal Development Unplugged podcast with me, Paul Clough. And this is an FMQ, a 5-minute quickie podcast, which never lasts 5 minutes. It always goes a little bit longer. But it's a chance for you and I just to muse, to think of a subject, to talk about it for a few minutes, and then spend time thinking, seeing how it would change our life if we maybe developed it a little deeper. And maybe sometimes these 5-minute quickies will go into a longer podcast where we can dive deeper and produce processes, hypnosis processes, NLP processes. Don't worry about the names. They're just processes for making our life and your life absolutely better. Getting rid of anxiety, fear, all those other hang-ups and issues that we have, and have the life we deserve and make dreams come into reality quicker, bigger, better than you could ever dream of. But they're the longer podcasts, and this is a 5-minute quickie where we break down the complicated into simple, because in simplicity there's genius, and that's what we do here. So if you want to just think for a little while, see what happens, see what resonates inside you, and when it does, you go change the world.
This is Personal Development Unplugged with Paul Clough.
In simplicity, there is genius.
In simplicity, there is genius.
Hey, my friend, a quick 5-minute quickie, and a 5-minute quickie that I want to talk about. You hear me on some of these episodes, I'll say something and then I'll change it in the moment. I don't delete it. I don't edit it. I say, ooh, you didn't say that right, Cluffy. I learned that a long time ago. Because some people will say, once spoken, you can't take it back. Once said, you can't take it back. Well, you bloody well can. If you listen. And I've heard so many examples of this. I actually heard one quite recently, and it's by the person I follow on Spotify, Joe Rogan. He was saying something, and it was a joke. And he said, in a jokingly manner, as it were, he said, that's the saddest thing. And then he said, no, it isn't. A child dying is the most saddest thing. He stopped himself in mid-sentence. I know a great trainer, and one of the originators of NLP would say in his trainings, if he said something wrong, or not what he wanted, he would stand aside and point to where he was and say, why the hell did he say that? Because that's not what he meant. This is what he meant. So he edited what he meant to say, how he can communicate. Now, I know the other originator, Richard Bandler of NLP, said, if you listen to your words, the words you're saying, not just say them, you can make sure that what you say is what you want to say. And if it's not what you want to say, change it. Because have you had the example of when you've said something and you know it's wrong, so you mumbled quickly, and then you said, you just gone off that subject? How crazy is that? When you just have to say, no, I didn't mean that. Oh, I'm sorry. That's exactly what I didn't mean to say. This is what I meant to say, to get it straight. And I know now when I'm with a client, I will wait for the words to come out by intuition. And you know what? Then when they come out, they're blooming awesome. And if I get it wrong, I will say to the client, no, wait a minute, I didn't mean that. This is what I meant. And I hear it through people like Jordan Peterson. When he articulates what he wants, he thinks before he says it. He really listens to the words he says. And he also then listens to the words he hears. So whatever you say, this is an aside, I guess, but it's an interesting thing to think about. Have you ever said something that you didn't mean to say? And then ran over it, carried on, forgot it, and didn't make amends for it? Because it bites you on the bum when it does. And when it happens, it really does. Because it'll catch you up. And it's so easy to be honest with that and say, no, I didn't mean that. This is what I really meant. It's hard. It can be very hard. It can be hard to admit that you're wrong, but you're not wrong. You're just being more right. I wonder, if you would think back right now, is there something that you've said in the past that, as you think about it now, and at the time, you knew that wasn't quite what you wanted to say, but you didn't change, you didn't edit it, and the things went crazy? Even to yourself. And that's what I'm just thinking about now. What are the things you say to yourself that you do not stop and edit and say, no, that's wrong? Why did you say that to yourself, Cluffy? Is that right? Is that exactly what the facts say? Is that, the things, is that exactly what you're seeing? Or are you making these things up? Is it true? Because when you question yourself that way, just with your inner thoughts, your inner dialogue, you can get superb clarity. And you see, one of the presuppositions of NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, if those who don't know what it is, and a presupposition of NLP is a useful assumption. And the one that I always, well, not always, that's too big a generalization, Paul, but think about, it's the meaning of the communication is the response that you get. So they took it wrong. They didn't get it. No. The response you got was the response you got. If it's not what you wanted, change the words, change the way you communicate. Make sure that you're congruent, aligned with what you're saying. Maybe you're saying one thing and your body's saying something different because you're not aligned with the thoughts that you have, and your words are clearly demonstrating it. So all in all, to summarise all that waffle, well, I hope it wasn't waffle, but prattling on, is listen to the words you say. Whether it's when you're by yourself and it's inside, or when you're just communicating with others. And if it's not what you wanted to say, just practice this. Just say, hang on a minute, I didn't mean that. And notice the response you get. You'll find it's a big one. And after a while, the habit becomes a good habit because you generally think about what you're saying and get it right first time, or nearly right. We never get things perfect, do we? But if it isn't what you want, or the response isn't the response that you were anticipating or intending, then just very quickly review what you just said and change it. It could make the world of difference. And I always like the saying, it could just be the difference that makes a difference. And that'd be a big difference. It could be that one domino that is now realigned in the whole, and it's the one that lets the whole domino rally create those wonderful pictures on the floor. Hey, Paul. Bloody hell, Cluffy. You went off in there. I hope you enjoyed this 5-minute quickie that's lasting, 6, 7, 8 minutes. But hey ho. Enjoy. Have more fun than you can stand, and then a bit more, because it's time to fly. Bye-bye.
Warning, you are now leaving the unplugged mind of Paul Clough. It's time to fly on your own. Be brave, my friend.
Personal Development Unplugged.